So what we're talking about today in this episode is the high brass. In front of us we got a B flat trumpet and we have a double horn. Now, directors, if you're watching this, we know that most of the time you're going to start your students on an F horn. But you never know. Sometimes in your arsenal you might have to just bust out that double horn just to be sure that everyone has an instrument up and going. Note, there's not a whole lot of huge differences comparing F horn to double horn, but that's why you're watching this episode right now, so that way I can explain to you exactly why there's not that much of a difference. But first, let's go ahead and start off with our trumpet. You know, the trumpet not only looked like this a long time ago. A long time ago, it was just one long piece of rod with the bell. So imagine seeing this instrument, but from this side. Nothing's here. The only thing that does exist is this and the bell. It's one long one. Ancient Egyptians used this trumpet back then, but back then they used to only just play two notes because that's all they knew at that time. Music was just barely getting recognized. And so what the Egyptians would do, they would use these for military marches, for battles, and sometimes we'd have to use them for sacrifices as well. But as the years went on, in the early 1800s, that's when they started to add vowels to the instrument. So that way we can play more than two notes. And now that we have these vowels, we're able to go in different combinations to actually give you different notes on whatever you're looking at. So as we go along in this part of the trumpet, we're going to start off first with the mouthpiece. Now, the embouchure. How do we start getting introduced to the embouchure? Now, students, if you're watching this, you probably already have an idea of how the director wants you to do it. But just in case you haven't got that far yet, or directors, if you're watching this for the first time and have never taught brass before, this might be able to help. So, what we want to do with our trumpet mouthpiece, as you can see, this is what we call the bell, and this is what we call the shank. Now, getting started on the mouthpiece. Students, if you're watching this, directors have probably got you started on how they want you to approach it, but just in case you haven't got that far yet, or band directors, if you've never taught a brass instrument before and this is your first time doing so, pay close attention. We'll get you a head start. Students, we'll do the same thing for you. Now, as we see the mouthpiece, we have the rim, the cup, and of course the shank. Now the shank can come in different sizes. This one is a little bit more of a smaller shank, but if you go shopping at any of your local retail music stores, sometimes you'll find one that looks exactly like this, or one that's a little bit larger. The larger the shank, the more brighter that sound's going to be. Now, how do we approach playing for the first time? How do we approach getting embouchure position for the first time? Remember these numbers, 5/8, 1/8. 5/8 meaning the percentage of lip being used top-wise. 1/8 is the percentage being used of your bottom lip. 1/8 meaning a little bit of your bottom lip. 5/8 meaning a lot more of your top lip. So let's start. If you have a mouthpiece in front of you right now, let's try doing this. If you have your mouthpiece, take your two fingers like you're making a peace sign or you're making that bunny rabbit, and what you're going to do is place your thumb and index finger right here, and there you go, teacup. So now we want to bring the rim of the mouthpiece to the bottom edge of your bottom lip, just like so. And I'll show you from this angle as well. And then what you want to go ahead and do is raise up that cup like you're doing a cup of tea. And there you go. Now, the numbers 5/8 and 1/8. If you're doing it correctly, you'll notice that when you bring the mouthpiece up to your mouth, you'll notice that more of the top lip is inside of the mouthpiece more than the bottom lip is. That's why we go with 1/8, less bottom lip, and 5/8, more top lip. So when we put it together again, Raise it up, and there you go. Now, if you've already gotten ahead at this point, it's okay to just follow along and ask your teacher what they think is correct or not. Directors, if you're watching this and you've never done it before, just do me a favor, tell your students to go in front of a mirror, try it for the first time, see if they're getting it right, see if they feel more of their top lip than their bottom lip. Now, learning how to get a good buzz. Now, the first buzzing sound that we're going to get out of this could be different tones. Now, the director may want, okay, I want a concert F, or they may say, I want a concert B flat. Of course, sixth graders, if you're watching this, you'll probably think, huh? That's why, directors, if you're watching this, be sure that you're using a drone. You can download it off your app. Students, you can do the same thing too. You can download an app off of your phone, and it can easily show you exactly what a concert F or a concert B flat sounds like, and it'll show you exactly how to get that buzz. So let's try it again. Rim and bottom lip, edge of bottom lip that is. Bring it up. Now, as you bring it up, we want you guys to think of this syllable. M, poo. M, poo. So when I do it together, M, watch again. M. So now when we try it together, bring it up. M. In this case, what we had is a concert C sharp or a concert D flat. Let's see if I can go for something a little bit different. Let's say a concert F. And again, if you guys are watching this, listen to it first and then apply it. So here we go. 5/8, 1/8, the M poo. So in this case, we'd have to push a lot more air and make our corners a little bit more, how should I say, thinner. We want to make them a little bit more closer together, just to be sure that we're making our muscles shaped into the smaller ooh sound to get us that concert F. Sometimes you might have a bad start, but that's okay. The more and more you keep practicing it in front of a mirror, the more and more it'll just come naturally to you. Now, before we hit the mouthpiece, there's a very important thing that we need to discuss. Embouchure placement. What is embouchure placement? Making this part, notice why I already have my Lemmy Kilmister goatee going on here. This is to actually show you exactly where the embouchure takes place. So, to get ourselves started, think about whenever you eat one of your favorite dishes. Could be anything, one of your favorite things to eat. First thing you do when you take a big whiff, watch again, you'll miss it. Look what's happening already. Look at my corners. Watch again. Corners are nice and tight, but look at this part right here. Notice how it's flat. So, that's the proper way to get yourself positioned. Now, with the corners of your mouth, what you guys want to do is bring them back and have them anchored. Have them set. Because the minute you start going, which is what we call buzzing, if it's moving all over the place, you're not going to get a very good sound, and I guarantee your director will be going, oh, tarnation. No, we don't want your director to do that. Directors, we don't want to be able to teach our students that wrong way. So, once again, take a big whiff of that dish. Keep those corners nice and set. Keep that chin nice and flat. And then, let's try buzzing. Which in this case, all we're going to do is try vibrating the top lip and keep our bottom lip as anchored as possible. Now, if you feel the bottom lip vibrate, that's okay. But as long as you're feeling a little bit more of the top lip vibrate, you're on the right path. So let's try that again. Then are still set? Are they still set? Is this still flat? You won't be able to tell unless you're actually looking in the mirror. Now, if you're looking in the mirror and all that is as set, you're on the right path. Now, let's talk about our left hand. Since we already got our right hand placed, let's go ahead and talk about where our thumb and our ring finger should be. As you can see, here's our thumb holder. Here is our second slide. Now, sir, slides? Well, first slide, second slide, and our main tuning slide, which is also considered the third slide. Now, we're going to talk about what these slides do in a bit, but let's go ahead and get going with the left hand's placement. So, as I said before, thumb, then we also have our ring finger being placed where the second slide is, and then we're going to just take these two fingers and wrap them around the third valve. And there you go. This is exactly how we hold our trumpet. Now again, some of your directors might have a different way of how to hold it. I'm not here to overrule them. I'm just here to show you an example of how a trumpet is to be held. They might have a different way. Listen to what they have to say. Now, with this being said, now we can start talking about our slides. We already talked about our valves. Now, our first and second slide are here, just in case we ever play any type of note, in this case, our D, which is 1 and 3. Sometimes that D for a trumpet might be so out of tune that we might have to adjust what we can. So that's why these valves are here. When we push them out, what we're doing is making the pitch of that D a little bit more flat. When we push them in, what we're doing is making them slightly a little bit more sharp. Once again, this is at the director's discretion. If they feel, okay, you're fine, don't mess with these slides. But if they think, oh, you're slightly off, then guess what? All you have to do is just adjust from there. Now, the third slide is your main tuning slide. If there's absolutely no way that you can fix it based on the first and the second slide, any note that you're playing, you might have to pull out if it's too sharp, or push in if it's too flat. Once again, this is all at the discretion of your director. Or even students, if you already have that perfect pitch ear going on there, maybe you can just make that correction yourself.